So evidently Switzerland and Italy are changing their borders. I don't know. It says here's why. The video is by the channel General Knowledge. And according to the original thumbnail here, old border, new border, it looks like Italy's losing land, according to the thumbnail. Obviously, I haven't watched the video. According to this thumbnail, Switzerland gains territory, 150 meters, and Italy loses territory. I don't know how true that is, but anyways, the links to the original video will be in the description section down below as always. Make sure you go check it out. Hit like and subscribe, do all that super fun, awesome stuff. Let's hit play. See what this dog's doing. He's staring at us.
Cutest play.
Socks? Is that the dog's name? Alright. Oh yeah, I remember this channel. It's usually animated like this.
First, the new back.
Okay, so the dude's like, he's making it not animate. He's starting to use his face, right? Because all the videos I've seen by this General Knowledge channel has been animated, but I haven't seen a lot.
Country, and now a border change in Europe. Map makers must be going crazy right now. On October 1st, this article came out in a bunch of news outlets stating that Italy and Switzerland have agreed to shift their shared border in the Alps.
Why?
Now, this is pretty uncommon. For the most part, European borders have kind of stayed the same since the start of the 21st century.
Right.
Maybe two big exceptions are the separation of Montenegro and Kosovo from Serbia. That's always something fun to mention in a video, right? Nobody's gonna get mad in the comments. But every now and then, two countries will sit down and agree some minor changes to their shared borders. For instance, in 2020, France and Switzerland made a little bit of a change to account for readjustments related to Geneva Airport, where infrastructure overlapped the original boundary. In 2009, following a ruling from the International Court of Justice, Romania and Ukraine finally set their border along the Black Sea and divided the resources around Serpent Island. Or in 2014, when Germany and the Netherlands adjusted their border along the Alps River because over time the flow of the river had shifted its location. And now in 2024, Switzerland and Italy are doing something similar too, and the reasons are similar to the cause of the German-Dutch border change as well. So in this video, we are going to learn where the border is changing, in what way, and why. By the way, I just did the Patreon giveaway of the painting, the one that I did of the channel logo icon thing. And I will be shipping this amazing piece of art to the lucky winner. I'm going to be doing a few more giveaways on Patreon, so if you want a chance to participate, make sure to support me directly on it. But now let's get back to the border. Switzerland has a pretty interesting place within Europe. It's a small country, it's landlocked, and it is surrounded by many nations.
Yeah.
It borders France, Germany, Austria, Liechtenstein, and Italy. And while its northern borders are reasonably simple, the southern, eastern, and western ones are not. The reason why? The Alps.
Also, isn't Switzerland the only one in that area that's not part of the EU, like the Schengen, whatever it's called, right? Where you can go and travel without passports and you know, and all that kind of stuff. Isn't Switzerland kind of isolated from that?
The Alps are one of the highest and most extensive mountain ranges in Europe, stretching approximately 1,200 kilometers across 8 alpine countries, one being Switzerland, and the 5 others being the countries that Switzerland borders. This map shows it well, separating the French Alps, the Swiss Alps, the Italian Alps, and then the Bavarian, Austrian, and Slovenian ones. It's odd that the map labels it as Bavarian instead of German, while all the others are just the countries, but anyway. If we switch to a satellite image, this becomes even clearer, the vast expanse of the mountain range.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Italy, the entire border with Switzerland is across the Alps mountains. The border extends between them for 744 kilometers from the French-Swiss-Italian tripoint at Mont Dolin in the west to the Austrian-Swiss-Italian tripoint near Bislad in the east. It is the longest border of both Switzerland and Italy. And not only does the entire border run across the Alps, but much of it actually goes across the high Alps, going above 4,600 meters in altitude.
Yeah, it was probably following the ridge line, I would assume, right? Like the highest mountains along that, and just kind of follow the ridge line, I would think. That's why it looks like it zigzags and goes up and down, because mountain ranges are pretty sporadic.
Interestingly, it also passes through the lowest point in Switzerland, as it passes Lago Maggiore at 200 meters below sea level.
Okay.
And while mountains are pretty solid and not really something that moves around across time, these mountains have something in particular. Well, I guess all tall mountains do. Ice, more precisely, glaciers.
Okay.
Now,
Glaciers
borders
move.
are never permanent, and while it is kind of rare that significant changes happen today, these are just lines that humans decided to make across natural regions to divide them into political entities.
Yep.
And the borders between Italy and Switzerland actually have an interesting story. The border is a product of the Napoleonic period, established with the Provisional Constitution of the Helvetic Republic of 1798, restored in 1815. While this border existed as a border of Switzerland from 1815, there was only a unified Italian state to allow the existence of a Swiss-Italian border with the formation of the Kingdom of Italy in 1861. It previously comprised the borders between Switzerland and the Kingdom of Sardinia, the Kingdom of Lombardy-Venetia, and the province of Cisleithania of Austria-Hungary. Since 1815, a few adjustments have been made, several times throughout history. But since 1946, it has pretty much remained unchanged, with the exception of minor corrections and exchanges of territory.
That's interesting. So Geneva, I never knew that, is way over here. Like you got to go. Okay, so you got to go around this lake, Geneva, and it's like it's tucked way back. So you got this little strip of land in between the lake and the border, I would assume, at the base of a mountain right here, along the edge of the Lake Geneva, and then you just have this area here called Geneva. I never knew that. That's crazy that it's just kind of like tucked away like that.
Corrections and exchanges of territory. And these minor changes, which we'll get into right now and which characterize this specific border change, are proof that borders aren't immovable. The Swiss government's website even says this pretty clearly. Borders are commonly regarded as fixed, but depending on the terrain, they are subject to climatological changes and natural phenomena and may thus change their course. This is exactly what has happened here,
Yeah.
and it caused the border change between them and Italy.
Well, where's it
Because
changing
a border
to?
that is drawn across the icy peaks of glaciers is definitely subject to change, especially in a world that is heating up. As the local and global temperatures are rising, the peak of the Matterhorn, which is one of the tallest peaks of the Swiss Alps, has begun to melt. And so the two countries have agreed to redraw their border to reflect this new natural landscape, with Switzerland gaining 100 to 150 meters of territory into what was before Italy. Switzerland has already officially approved this change, and Italy should do it pretty soon.
Why would Italy be like, yeah, sure, we'll give you some land? Why? And what? I don't understand. What's the significant? Like, why does it matter? Oh, the top of this mountain's melting, so we better change the border over here. Why does it matter? Just keep the border where the border is. It's the damn mountains. It's not like there's massive settlements there or anything that's gonna like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's. I don't understand still. I really still do not understand the purpose, the necessity of oh, we have to, because it's melting, we have to move it.
They're both acting on a common agreement from last year. And while it may seem odd, this isn't something new between the two countries. In the year 2000, they performed something similar at Fourques-Saatel. Actually, in this one, something pretty funny happened, which was that with the border change, the ski lift of the resort that exists there started being a part of Switzerland instead of being a part of Italy, which it was when it was constructed.
Yeah, see, that's when you start screwing stuff up. Like, oh, well, we have to move the border because the peak of the mountain's over here now instead of here. Why don't you just put some sticks in the ground or something? Just map out the border. You know where it's at. It's like, okay, let's change the border. Well, now what? Now what happens to the ski lodge? Now are they forced to become another country? Like, that's just crazy.
One could question why they don't just keep the same border but at a lower altitude, but from what I could understand, and correct me if I am wrong, they have defined and decided that their shared border must be set across the peaks of these glaciers. This illustration shows us how in 1940 the peak was here, and so that's where the border was. But as the ice melted, the peak of the glacier shifted over here 100 to 150 meters to the left, and so the border had to be readjusted to match it. And they actually have an online map that's kind of interactive, which shows us how the border has changed in all of these tiny details in various places. We can see the old 1940 borders along the black crosses and the new adjusted one in the pink line. While the lines still match in many places, they're far apart in many others too, even if just a little bit. And a good selection is presented to us to showcase these changes by Swisstopo, the Federal Office of Topography of Switzerland. At L'Aller, it's only a tiny bit of an adjustment between the black crosses and the pink line. But at Genève-Cottrin, it's much more significant, with the border being pushed back quite a lot into Switzerland. So while in this more recent case, Switzerland actually gained a little bit of land, there's a lot of other cases in which it loses it.
Okay.
At Douane de Bardonnay,
So I guess it'll even out. So it's not specifically like benefiting one country or the other, which I don't even think it's going to benefit anybody. It's mountains. Who can, they're not unless they're up there mining for resources and they have to have the ones on the peak of the mountain or whatever. It's not really going to affect anybody, I don't think. But again, I'm not a borderologist or a mountainologist or anything like that. I'm just some guy that watches YouTube videos. So
they also lost it, in this case to France, and it seems like in the middle of the actual city that's at the border. At Barrage de Livigno, it's pretty much the same, just slightly adjusting it along the river course, while at Barrage de Mosson, there's a big change again, with Swiss territory growing towards the south, something that also happens in this final example of Barrage du Val d'Ilay, when instead of continuing in a vertical line, the border extends tremendously to the west to add this rectangle of territory to Switzerland. And when it comes to the glacier issue, we could...
Why'd they add the rectangle? Was there a town in there they didn't want to lose? The one country didn't want to lose a town, so they just kind of jogged it around it? Because that would make sense.
Also just argue, why don't they just change the rule, right? The border was set along the glacier peaks when it was first formed, but now that things have changed on the ground, the border could just stay where it was. But there seems to be some logic in wanting to keep those glacier peaks as the marks for the...
I mean, yeah, sure, it just makes it easy. Where's the border? At the top of the mountain. Okay, cool, easy. It's better than, where's the border? Oh, it's about 50 yards before the top of the mountain here, and down there 200 yards past the peak. Sure, I get it. It's for simplicity.
Border. Because as the ice melts, it makes the landscape more unstable, prone to dangerous landslides and collapses of snow. And so Switzerland says that these changes are also in accordance with the safety and economic priorities of each country.
So because the border is 50 foot or 50 meters from the top of the mountain, now we're going to pose a safety concern, safety risk. How much sense does that actually make? Maybe I'm missing something. That makes no sense to me. What is the actual safety concern? Landslides, avalanches, they're going to happen. It doesn't matter where your border is. That's going to happen. I'm confused.
It's thought that clarifying the border will help both sides know which areas they have to take care of and make sure are safe. And it's...
If you put border markers up or giant pole, when I get it, you wouldn't have to do that. Just it's easier. Make it at the peak. I'm starting to I understand. I get it. It just seems like a unnecessary hassle.
It seems that according to Swiss predictions, these changes are going to keep happening at least for a while. One article quoted them saying in 2024, glaciers continued to lose ice at a high speed, despite much snow in the winter that was expected to bring some relief. Some glaciers are literally falling apart, small glaciers are disappearing. Statistics show that in 2024, Switzerland's glaciers lost about 4% of their size, compared to 6% of loss in the previous year. So it's very likely...
Global warming, guys. Global warming.
That as they continue to melt in the future, Switzerland and Italy will have to continue adjusting their border until the ice stops melting or all of it is gone. And interestingly, this seems to be exclusive to the border of Switzerland with Italy, even though Switzerland also shares these alpine borders with France and Austria.
Yeah.
The Swiss government states that there are no snow fields or glaciers along the other alpine borders between Switzerland and France or Austria, which could result in any positional changes.
Interesting. So it's only along that area. That's weird, right? What a coincidence.
However, the border between the canton of Geneva and France has a total of around 103 kilometers, 50 of which pass through the middle of rivers. Over time, and as a result of flooding, maybe from the melting of the glaciers as well,
True.
these rivers have shifted their course, showing
Yeah.
that in various places the border has changed and will have to change as well. So that is why Switzerland and Italy are shifting their border, where that shift is happening, and why the change is taking place, allowing us to understand how many tiny border changes have been made along the Swiss-Italian border over time.
I thought that they only changed it because of the peaks. This is showing a river basin, right? Is this a river? Why would they need to change it in the middle of a river? Am I missing something? Is this not a river? Because that's what it looks like.
Have been made along the Swiss-Italian border over time because of the melting of glaciers and their insistence on using the peaks of glaciers as the marks for the border for those safety and economic concerns. In addition to other small changes they've made, such as the ones in the border with France due to the changes in the course of rivers or for other natural reasons.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Is there any other borders that you know of around the world that's changing so rapidly, right? Like, also, do you live close by? Have you seen it? Is it affecting like little villages and stuff that are there in the mountains? Are the villages and stuff like that ski lodge, do they have to change countries and nationality? Or does the border just recognize that that was there and part of that country and the border just kind of goes around it despite it not being across the peak, right? Does that make sense? I don't know. Let me know down below. Do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. Also, have a super fun, awesome day, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.